What's up you guys, I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap. Today we'll react to a video called Most People Alive Today Will Work Until They Die.
Most people alive today will work until they die.
Alright, so you gotta say, very strong title, definitely a really attention-grabbing one. Sometimes I wonder about my own YouTube titles and whether or not I should try to do something more like that. I have a hard time though. There's just something in me that kind of resists doing that sort of sensationalist stuff. But yeah, definitely kudos on a great title. That's definitely attention grabbing with a strong statement.
Retirement is the career professional's promised land. Study hard at school, get a good job, work hard your entire life, live within your means, invest diligently, and you will be rewarded with endless free time in your final years. It's not much to ask for, but to most people alive today, it will only ever be a dream. A bank rate.
That was great. I love Fight Club. Yeah, just an awesome movie, kind of going against all that materialism. I love that part when he's talking about all this IKEA stuff. But yeah, of course, the reason I thought this would be a fun video to react to is that well, the core idea behind my channel, a lot of it is about agency and personal finance and being able to take steps that's going to put you on a course to, financial independence or at least a decent retirement, that kind of a thing. And so this one's saying that most people today are not going to be able to do that. Well, that's an interesting topic to tackle, and really the impetus for the channel also is trying to get, be one of many people out there that are trying to get helpful information out there so that people can make better choices and hopefully improve sort of the way that the average person is doing on their finances.
Survey found that 55% of Americans are behind on their retirement savings and 10% don't even know where their retirement savings stand. Like most things are with personal finance, the numbers are even worse with young professionals. The National Institute on Retirement Security reports that 66% of working millennials have nothing saved for retirement.
Oh man, that's not good, because I'm relatively old now, and I think technically I'm at the tail end of the millennials. That's not even, what we're talking about with the Gen Zs and whatever's coming after that. So, obviously the earlier you start with investing, the more compound interest that you can, more compounding can happen over time. So those are really the most important years are the early years. And it's not good to see these statistics for millennials.
Even though 2/3 of millennials work for an employer that offers a retirement plan, only about 1/3 participate in the offer.
Ooh, ouch. And, it does make sense in the sense that when you're younger and your income's lower, you have less disposable income. And then as your career progresses and your income grows along with your experience, then you have more disposable income that you can start to funnel towards retirement. And I think also there's the element that as you get older, then you start to realize more the fact that this retirement period is coming up, and I better start get a move on saving towards it. But ideally, it'd be great if we could get it to a situation where millennials are able to save more early on. And actually, I do think though that in general, most people tend to spend a lot more than they necessarily need to, and it would be possible to make changes to set themselves up for later. Now, not in all cases, obviously. There are situations that are really, really so tight that the only solution is more income, and that's easier said than done.
Oh. Well, that is bad news.
Millennials are between the ages of 27 and 42.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm 38 this year, so at the tail end of that. It's quite a wide range actually, from 27 to 42, but getting into their more peak earning years, a lot of the later millennials, and then the younger millennials should be still already getting established in the careers and able to save, and yet we saw that really low retirement contribution rate of 30-something%.
Many people in this group are at the peak of their careers, so these reports can't be attributed simply to young people just starting out in their financial lives. But who can blame them? The financial firm Fidelity recommends that you should have at least the equivalent of your annual salary saved by the age of 30, 3 times your salary at the age of 40, and 6 times your salary by 50 to be on track.
Oh, those are interesting sort of milestones or rules of thumb to get by.
If you are actually on track with these numbers, I am genuinely very impressed. Let me know in a totally unverifiable comment in the comment section, and I will give you an equally worthless love heart reaction. But most people are well behind
He's pretty funny. Good stuff.
Fidelity's recommendations. The NIRS found using the recommendations of financial experts that only 5% of working millennials are saving adequately for retirement, and everybody else is probably going to be working until they die. Three big reasons for these alarming statistics. The first reason is all of the obvious stuff. Inflation is at a 3-decade high. Millennials started their careers after the worst financial crash in a century. The cost of college is increasing 8 times faster than wages. Most young graduates are leaving school with 5-figure debt before they even start working. Renting even a 1-bedroom apartment is now unaffordable everywhere in the country for someone earning a minimum wage, and saving for a house is almost impossible in the expensive cities with good job opportunities. A New
Yeah, some of those things are pretty tough. The housing's tough. The student loan stuff is pretty difficult. And then I can definitely relate to the Great Recession, the financial crisis. Is I was actually in doing a graduate program at that time and came out of it still with a very, very terrible labor market going on there. So it wasn't exactly the best timing to be beginning a career.
variables like starting a family, getting sick, or earning less than the average college graduate would put them even further behind. And that's just reason one. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why you will be working until you die.
That's great. Well, you'll be working until you die. Certainly, that's not my plan, and hopefully, many of you watching this channel, it's not your plan either.
The second reason why most people will be working until they die is that people either don't care or don't want to think about it. As humans,
So that's actually a good reason, and again, sort of the motivation for my channel and the work that I try to do.
we are great at putting off problems that we don't want to deal with, and retirement is one of those problems. Most personal finance experts, and even people pretending to be personal finance experts on the internet, will tell you that the most important time to start planning for retirement is your early 20s, as soon as you get started with a professional job. Ideally, you can even get started before that by working part-time through college so that you don't start out your professional career with too much debt.
Yep. Although I worked part-time in college, but instead of spending it wisely on, I don't know, my education or saving it for something else, of course, I blew it on fun.
Paper, this all makes sense. If someone is hoping to have a 30-year retirement after they end their career, and they want to live on $50,000 a year during that time, they would need approximately $1 million in well-invested assets to generate that income, assuming that market returns are roughly the same as they have been over the past 100 years.
That would be 5%, which is a pretty high withdrawal rate. He may be factoring in Social Security in there.
A return would be about 10% per year on average, but after tax and inflation, 10% returns turn into roughly 4% returns. Someone planning to only live on retirement can afford to spend more than they earn from their returns, because they can use some of their principal every year since they aren't going to need it when they are dead.
Oh, okay, so he was putting longevity into account, that's why.
And $50,000 a year is what most people would need to be comfortable and enjoy life in their twilight years. Starting at 20 years old, with a target retirement age of 65, someone would need to invest $100 a month until they retired to reach that target. If they wait until 30 years old, they would have to invest almost $300 a month.
Yeah, big difference. And so you can see how much more achievable it is if we can get this information into practice and into the hands of the younger workforce.
Triple what they would have if they started at 20. If they wait until they are 40, they have to invest $800 a month. $800 a month for some people might be possible, but someone with that much disposable income also likely wouldn't be satisfied with $50,000 a year to live off in retirement.
I'm golden, baby.
You can't do anything with 5, Greg. 5's a nightmare.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's a great scene in Succession where, being a multimillionaire but not a decamillionaire, they're saying is just a terrible position to be in, which, obviously on its face is kind of ridiculous, but yeah.
Can't retire. Not worth it to work.
Oh, yes. 5 will drive you un poco loco, my fine feathered friend.
Starting early is clearly important, but making sacrifices now for something in 45 years' time just goes against basic human nature. It's not that irrational either. 20% of Americans don't even live until they are 60, and many more would be too sick by that time in their lives to really enjoy themselves regardless of how much they have saved. Seeing the world and going out with friends in your 20s is worth a lot more to most people than having a really nice room in a senior living facility. Life is not guaranteed, and money spent on life experiences is rarely regretted. Young people are traveling overseas at much higher rates than people from generations before. 74% of millennials surveyed said that they never expect to be able to afford.
Yeah, so let's go back to that travel stuff. So obviously these major experiences, those are really important, and I think One of the issues that we saw in that great documentary that featured Money Mustache on Netflix, that tracked people and their finances and paired them up with different finance coaches. One of them talked about how people tend to over prioritize the things that they like, their wants, rather than things that they love. And so they were really sacrificing these like big stuff um, by focusing more on these more attainable little like joys in life. So again, let's say that we were able to really trim back the eating out, then that could free up the budget for more travel, especially with credit card hacking and that kind of thing. So a lot of this stuff is definitely still achievable. It's just a matter of priorities.
Some people would call this behavior irresponsible, and a young
So, on my end, I recently got to enjoy the Dance Theater of Harlem in New York, and we had wonderful seats. They were front row center on the grand tier, so just right above the orchestra. Fantastic performance. So these kinds of things I think are, very worthwhile. Now, I'm not going to do that every week, right? But on a special occasion, definitely, absolutely worth it.
person's YOLO attitude may not be so cavalier when they are still behind a desk at 70, but there are other risks to planning for retirement that a lot of personal finance Puritans don't account for. The word on the street amongst financial analysts is that market returns over the past century were higher than we can expect in the future. They are often wrong about these sorts of things, but there is still no guarantee that sticking to a retirement savings plan will net you the results you are expecting when basing your calculations off past performance.
That's absolutely true, right? Past performance is not going to be a guarantee of future returns. However, it's the best information that we have. And productivity tends to continue to increase in many ways, especially with technological innovation. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, personally, in my view, I see productivity per capita, sort of per unit of labor, increasing to just ridiculous levels and eventually trending to the singularity and to zero. So we'll see. Now the time frame for that, I have no idea, right? So I'm just gonna continue to plan and prepare for things as they are and not what they're going to be in the future.
So even if you are part of the 80% that don't die and the 60% that are still healthy enough to enjoy an active retirement, there is a risk that your nest egg won't be enough to support the life that you thought you would be living in your retirement anyway. If the goal of money is to maximize fulfillment in your life, then spending money now might be the safer investment. Now, if you're thinking
And actually, a lot of economists do talk about this idea of consumption smoothing.
to yourself, why can't people just do both? That's a good question. But the answer is that a lot of people just don't have enough money.
It's hard to save, like in general, let alone for past a house and a savings account for emergencies.
There are certainly people that spend on things that are a complete waste of money, but millennials and younger generations are by and large more financially conscious than older generations. They know what they are spending their money on. They are just choosing different objectives. $100 a month after taxes could be all someone earning $50,000 a year has after covering their essential spending. Choosing a $1,200 summer
That would be
vacation
right.
every year at that point isn't reckless spending. It's just choosing to live life. And yes, a lot of people don't even save up for these expenses. A Lending Tree survey found that more than a third of people incurred vacation debt last year alone, averaging
Yeah, this is all bad. So here's where, a 50K income is totally livable. And so if we're in a situation where that's not sustainable, then we're living beyond our means if we can't afford, a small splurge a year on a 50K salary. So there, again, I think, yeah, just a really big difference in sort of expectations of what lifestyle should look like. And, they can be kind of nuts here in the US if this is all you've ever seen. But, having grown up abroad and seen what a dollar can buy in different economies gives you a real different perspective on all that.
The third reason that you will be working until you die is that even if you do choose to make sacrifices to save for retirement, you will probably mess it up anyway. The market may have returned an average of 10% per year over the past 100 years, but the average investor has only achieved a return of 4.25% in the same time according to research by Dalbar Inc. The first mistake people made was buying high and selling low as they bought into hyped up positions. Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation ETF has generated similar returns to the S&P 500 since its inception, but it has been a net destroyer of wealth because most people bought into the fund when it was outperforming the market by a considerable margin.
Yeah, this is a great point, and one that I've made in past videos as well, is that, the herd mentality, kind of following along with the crowd, tends to cause you to do exactly the wrong thing in investing, which is to buy high because everyone's hyping something up, and then to sell low because everyone's telling you to get out of this position that's, doing poorly. So, I do have to say so far that I agree with his points, but that doesn't mean that I think that this is an inevitability at all, right? So, like, yes, obviously, it is bad if we ignore our retirement and then all the savings and stuff. It's also bad if we're not good investors that follow our investment policy statement, over a long period of time. The first one was not starting to save early enough, basically, I think was the issue, right? So these three reasons are things that you could do that obviously would set you up in a bad spot for retirement, but it is also possible not to do them.
There is also an element of desperation in pursuing outsized investment gains. A lot of young people realize that they will never buy a house or even retire if they do everything right. So taking a risk on something that people on the internet are saying made them rich is worth a try. It's a lottery ticket that could cost thousands of dollars. For the same reason, people also try investing strategies like day trading, which investing gurus tell them could generate returns as high as $1,000 a day, but really, they are much more likely to lose all of their money. Fraud also hurts average investors a lot more than they realize. A lot of people trying to invest use services like FTX to gain exposure to cryptocurrency markets that were exactly the type of risky asset that could make people rich overnight. Those investors are unlikely to get their money back and could have lost a significant portion of their portfolio. Another reason that people suck at investing is because they invest too much. Now, don't call me crazy just yet.
Let's see what he's got to say about that. That'll be interesting. But definitely, I think if there's a theme there that you could have seen, it was that trying to get rich quickly, generally not a good plan, right? There has to be a lot of fraud, a lot of risk. Just is not a good, not a solid path towards financial freedom. Maybe taking a small portion of one's savings allocation and trying to shoot for the moon on a couple things might not be the most terrible thing, like 1% or 2%. I don't know. But betting the farm on these super risky get-rich things.
Yet. But if you are investing as much as you possibly can into your portfolio, then you will find it hard to cover big expenses as they occur without selling off some of your investments. Unexpected expenses like being laid off work often coincide with down markets, which means you will be forced to sell your stocks at lows after purchasing them at highs. Normal people.
Okay. So here's the part where I actually disagree with if you look at a long enough time frame. Because yes, you're most likely to get fired at a time when the valuations on the stock market are lower. However, you're not taking into account the sort of the opportunity cost of holding that cash. So let's say that cash is at least, 7 years old, then your investment most likely has doubled from when you first made it. So, the stock market could fall 50% and you would just be back to break even, but let's say it only falls 25%, then you're actually still ahead.
The final reason that people can't invest for retirement properly is that it's boring and slow. Most of you can't sit through a 60-second TikTok unless there is a separate screen of Subway Surfer or Minecraft parkour playing in the background.
That's
Dollar
hilarious.
cost averaging money into a retirement account for 45 years is a long commitment. And as the money piles up, it gets harder and harder to say no to all of the things that money could be doing instead of saving for a day you might be dead before. To have the same $50,000 retirement income after taxes and inflation, someone getting a return of 4.25% would need $2.5 million in investments outside of their primary residence. But using these more realistic numbers, they would need to save $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year, which is not possible for someone earning $50,000 a year, and anybody earning more than that,
Again, it could be done.
would have to be willing to spend a lot less in retirement than they did while they were working. There is a fourth reason that you will never retire, and that's because the 40-year career and the financial security it provides.
Actually, when I made $27,000 a year, I saved, what was it, 11 or 12? So very much doable at 50.
No longer exists. But that may not be a bad thing. To find out why, go and watch my video on how careers have changed forever. And if you know you are never going to retire, you should buy something from the I'm only here because I can't afford to quit collection off my new merch shop.
All right, that's great. So really well done video. Especially I love all of the different movie and television show scenes in the background. Really, really good. Really great references there that are also, applicable to the content that he's talking about. So yeah, I'd say that, this is a representation of the way that a lot of people are living their lives and of the economic realities that exist. But again, the point of what the information that I like to put out there and a lot of other people sort of like in the FIRE community or the more frugal community is that while these things may be true, we can also change things and create a better outcome for ourselves than is the norm. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.